Hello again, guys. I'm back. Today's October the 30th, 2017. Welcome to my channel, Alien Society. Well, as promised, I am going to do the Valiant Thor Revisited video. I want you guys to understand that when I first did this channel, when I started it back in April of this year, I wanted you guys to understand that, I had to do the series of them, okay, of the videos, so you guys can gain an understanding of the inconsistencies within the story, okay? But it's more to it than what you guys already been told by me, obviously. It's not just the inconsistencies, is the facts that I have gathered throughout over 5 years. And what more person to get it from than the person that knew Frank Ernest Stranges for over 25 years, okay? And I know people are like, wait a minute. Why is this guy just coming out and saying this and that, and when he could have said that many years ago? Well, first of all, I'm not big into the social media thingy, so I figured, why not just try this? And, I know people may agree, some people may disagree, and that's fine. But I'm trying to give you guys the same avenue that I took, okay, so that I can come up with every single detail of this story. And the reason I'm showing you the picture of Howard Menger's home is because supposedly, obviously, that's where Frank used his storyline that a so-called man that's from the planet of Venus came to Howard Menger's home, and we all know that that's not the case at all. And the reason for that, again, is because all the details that I have gotten, okay, first-hand knowledge, and that's not exactly the whole truth, all right? So here we go, guys. I know that a lot of people are making claims already, with theorizing that I'm working for the FBI or the NSA or anything like that to try to discredit the story. Again, I say to you guys that no, I do not belong to any of our government's agency of any kind, okay? None of it. I'm a normal United States citizen and, basically out of my own free will decided to do this on my own. No one paid me to do this. I was interested in this story just like other stories before this. And so it got my curiosity because I was already familiar with the Howard Menger story. But I never knew that there was some guy by the name Valiant Thor until obviously I've learned of this story from Frank Ernest Stranges' book, Stranger at the Pentagon, okay? And that's how it all led me to do my own investigation into the whole story, just to see how does it pan out, okay? Just like the Howard Menger story, just the same thing, guys, okay? When you see other people's of these ufology fields and stuff, they make their own investigations of, whatever they want to do, And I'm not saying that I'm the first, because obviously I know I'm not. There've been plenty, and still to this day, these agencies that do investigations on U.F.O phenomenon and so-called alien contactee stories, and also alien abduction stories. So it's not just that, you got people attacking, it's more like people just want to validate these people's claims, because of course you can't make these somewhat outrageous claims and yet you show no form of evidence whatsoever. Now people are going to be like, oh, well, then if I was abducted, how can I prove it? I can only say that I was abducted, but I can't prove it. Like the Betty and Barney story, for instance, when I've already mentioned to you guys that you got Betty saying one thing, but then Barney's also saying one thing. And then when you go way back into the 1930s, okay, you can learn, not 30s, it's more the 40s. Many of you can learn by history that the Germans made flying saucers, okay? Their scientists had these designs And basically, there you have your first Earth-made flying saucers. So anyways, I just wanted to point that out. This is about the Valiant Thor story. So let's get to it. And I just wanted you guys to get an overview of basically certain things. This is Frank Ernest Stranges with his father, Nathan. Okay? So Frank Ernest Stranges is on the left on the screen, and his father's on the right. So as you guys can see, he was always a well-dressed teenager, man, basically, since he was a kid. He was very well-dressed, well-mannered and all that. So he was not a stupid kid. He was a smart kid, okay? And right here, he's with his mother, Catherine. Of course, it's a different picture. He's now grown, and you can see he's standing right there with his mother. And in some instances, you see Frank right here, like, basically, he's promoting UFOs, as you guys can see. He's just standing there. It's almost like a magician. He's just standing there, like, with his arms out and with his wavy hair. Okay. Here's another picture of Frank with his wavy hair again. He's just sitting there and laying down, relaxing. Not laying down, but sitting down. I know a lot of people are like, wow, what's wrong with this guy? Anyways, guys, in beginning with the story, it started in 1960, okay? There was no such thing as a Valiant Thor. He created the story in 1960 and basically borrowed bits and pieces of movies such as The Day the Earth Stood Still, the 1951 movie, which of course you guys know that there is a basic remake with Keanu Reeves in it, okay? With a guy by the name of Klaatu who comes to Earth to judge humanity, all right? And then he also borrowed pieces from the story, actually the movie Stranger from Venus. You guys can check out that movie. You'll see it. It's a very interesting movie, almost similar to the same Valiant Thor story. As you guys will check it out, you'll see. And he also borrowed bits and pieces from George Adamski, of course. He was one of the biggest, well-known, first, basically, I would say, that he was well-known as the first contactee, basically, in America and other places of the world, because he made his claim about meeting some Venusian from Venus by the name of Orthon. Okay? And then, of course, he also borrowed bits and pieces from Howard Menger. Okay? And what does he does? He makes the merge of his story. He merges his story with Howard Menger's story and tries to tell you, okay, that this stranger from Venus comes to Howard Menger's home. And of course, that is not the case at all. So, the book, after Frank came out with his little book and he started it, okay, it was called, in the beginning, it was called My Friend from Beyond Earth. All right? Now, you guys are going to wonder, why did it take him so long to come out with a book, another one, in 1967? Well, the reason for that, okay, was because he had to perfect the book to where every single person that reads it is going to believe in it. Okay, so he used the so-called visitation that former President Dwight Eisenhower had in 1954, but he pushes it all the way to 1957. See, so a lot of you don't know that because you're believing in the book, and then you guys don't research it. And if you research it, you can see that this supposed rumor started in 1954, where supposedly Dwight Eisenhower was taken from his, he was briefed while he was on vacation somewhere else, and so he ended up disappearing somewhere else. I guess people were saying that he went to meet with some extraterrestrials, beings that were not from this planet Earth. But they didn't say anything about no name Valiant Thor. So you guys can check that out for yourselves, and you'll see that it was not no 1957. It's all recorded, guys. You can see it was in 1954 where this big rumor started. Okay, so there's no way possible that it was anybody by the name of Valiant Thor. And yes, I know you guys also know that there was another man that was trying to merge his story with Frank Ernest Stranges' story and make it his own, and that was Philip Snyder as well. He tried to state that his branch of Valiant Thor was for 58 years. As you guys can see, that was all a lie, okay? Because if I was told that this is Frank Ernest Stranges himself and he made up the story, then I know for a fact that Phil Snyder's Valiant Thor, Valiant Thor, is not real. So I know a lot of people had issues with that too, simply because I mentioned it. And well, all I can say, guys, is research, and you guys can see for yourselves that there are plenty inconsistencies, and you will find it yourselves, and there you go, okay? So it's basically like, even if you didn't have the information like I do, you still would notice all the inconsistencies within the story itself, okay? Now, when Frank did the book in 1967, okay, bear in mind that he promoted the book from his own church company. It's not like it was promoted from any other. It was not published by any other book publisher. It was published by him himself. And of course, when you have your own, basic church type, you can promote books. You can publish books and stuff. And that's exactly what he did. And then you guys had to think for a minute why he published that book. Why didn't somebody of, like a bigger company promote his book? Or publish his book. Obviously, for the reasons that they knew that the story is a hoax, okay? Because they knew that it didn't stand on 2 feet. You can't bring a story and say that it's based on fact when it wasn't based on fact at all, okay? It was just meant to be just a normal story, and he just elevated it and converted it into a true story so that it can be more believed by the masses. And of course, that's exactly what happened. So, as you guys will see right here, okay, this is when Frank, as a young man, he went to assign to the military. Now, he wasn't in the military, but he went to basically enlist himself, so that whenever he's called, they call you. He's a draftee. Okay? So, as you guys can see, because I showed you guys this before in a video before. This is Frank Ernest Stranges, and it gives you a description of himself. So, he's actually describing himself on here, and you guys can see. Okay? His occupation at the time, he was a student. Okay? The registration date on there is 1945. Now, when it tells you his eye color, his hair color, his height, you can clearly see that it's telling you he had brown hair. Okay? Now, many of you are going to be like, wait a minute. Wasn't Valiant Thor's hair brown? Exactly. Because that's what he told you guys. He said Valiant Thor had brown hair. Brown, wavy hair, right? And that's why I was trying to give you guys in series, okay, because again, I didn't understand how all this the YouTube videos go. I didn't know how long I can leave the video on for. So, as you guys can see, like I just showed you guys this before. Now, maybe some of you probably can't see the full. I did show you up close before, and it says brown hair, okay? So you guys can see it was not me. He later dyed his hair black so that no one can say that, he's one and the same person that went to Howard Menger's home. But that is him. Okay? Now, many people can doubt all they want, and that's fine. I got first-hand knowledge that that's Frank Ernest Stranges. So that's enough for me. Okay? That's enough for me. Even though that, like I said, this investigation took a while because I wanted to make sure that when every single detail that I have is accurate. Okay, that's why I wanted to make sure so that when I did bring it out, I make sure that it's accurate, because I'm not going to bring something that's inaccurate, because then I would be at fault if I did that. And that's not what I want to do, okay? So that's why it took me so long to bring this forward to everyone so they can see that the story was never meant to be fact. It was simply meant to be a normal story, which of course converted into fact, and now people believe it even more as a true story. So let's go on to something else here. Hold on. This is, of course, Frank Ernest Stranges. Hold on. There's more. There's more. Okay, we go, see if this one. Yep, here we go. Many of you also don't know that Frank Ernest Stranges was friends with Auggie Roberts. And he mentioned that before, okay? So people automatically assume that he was not friends with Auggie Roberts. That's August Charles Roberts. Let me give you I think I told you guys this before, but I want to show you guys again anyways. Right here you can see that this was a magazine that goes back into the 1954, and it's called Space Adventures number 11, October-November 1954. So this is the first appearance of it. And you guys will see that the name of this robot is called Val Thor. Okay? This is the first time this name comes out into the open. And obviously you can see that it didn't originate with Frank Ernest Stranges. It did originate in a magazine. Okay? So obviously the name was converted to Valiant Thor. And this one is just Val Thor, the robot. Okay? So you guys can see, and I showed you guys in the other videos before. Oh, sorry about that. That was Oscar Schneider, which of course does not relate to this specific story, which I'm trying to give you guys a full analysis of the Howard Menger / Valiant Thor story, even though Howard Menger did not mention anything about anyone named by Valiant Thor. Okay. This is the doctored photograph that you see in Frank Ernest Strange's book. Now, he tells you that this took place in 1958, right? Because, of course, bear in mind that you guys heard me say 1958 also because I was using his version of the story. So I said 1958, okay? So basically you can see that that couldn't possibly be true, that this was in 1958. Now, the reason I say this was because if you guys see the same photograph, okay, that I first showed you, the full story one, the full meeting, okay, you guys can see that it was Howard Menger with his wife, Rose, at the time, not Connie Menger. Right here, this would mean that if this was an actual photograph, which it is, but it's also doctored, like I told you guys, then you would notice that Howard Menger's not even in this crowd. He's supposed to be sitting here, okay, but you don't see him at all. And this is a photograph that is connected to, I'm going to actually show you guys right now. Hold on. That photograph right here. Because if you guys remember, I try to show you, okay, I try to show you how this guy who's crouching over, you can still see that he's doing that in the color photograph, which tells us that the whole photograph is just one whole full photograph, okay? And you can clearly see that it was doctored because you don't see Howard Menger there at all, period, okay? Now we can say, oh, well, maybe those people were waiting for Howard Menger, right? That could be true. They could definitely be sitting all waiting for Howard Menger. But then think about it. If they were waiting for Howard Menger, then why isn't Howard Menger already there? I mean, I know that's his house. Yes, it is. But he's not there with them right now. Okay? So anyways, like I told you guys, the reason that Frank Ernest Strange's wife, Bernice, at the time, did not want to attend these places is because she didn't agree with certain things, So Frank was more of the one pushing the alien UFOs, lectures and stuff like that. It wasn't really his wife, Bernice, at the time. So again, she was a church-going person just like him, but the only difference was he was more into this something outside of the box. Because when you're into religion, you're not really trained to think outside of the box. You're always taught to be thinking only inside. You can't go outside of the Bible, okay? That's what I'm saying. For those of you who is trying to figure out what I'm saying, that's exactly what I'm saying, is that, in religion, you can't really think outside of the box. So it's more like saying God created us and that's it, But we can't be like that because we can't think for the grand architect of the universe, okay? Because we don't know who is the grand architect of the universe. I mean, we can just say it's Yahweh, Jehovah, Allah. But again, that's not for us to really know because we don't really know that, okay? We just know what the ancients before us have told us. And they've written down in a historic book we know today as the Bible, okay? But this is not about that. This is about Valiant Thor, like I said. Now, I know I do go off into certain subjects while I'm talking about the Valiant Thor story, but I'm still trying to sit here and show you guys exactly every single piece of information that I've received. Now, August Charles Roberts, okay, even though that he was known as this big photographer, and yes, he was, I again mention it to you guys that he knew how to alter photographs. Okay, it's a technique used for a long time. Okay, even to this very day, it's still used where people happen to, I guess you can call it photoshopping. Okay, that's exactly what it's called. Now, this is the photograph that I showed you guys of Frank Ernest Stranges. Okay, at his Bible seminary, right here. And when you look at him even closer, like I've already give you guys the blown up photograph, okay, you guys can clearly see that he matches the same description of the same man that he calls Valiant Thor. And people say, no, well, look it up for yourselves. All you have to do is look this picture up yourselves, guys. This is not something I made up, okay? This is something that I researched and I looked it up and I found it. And then when you guys look it, for yourselves, you will see that this is actually Frank Ernest Stranges right here. Okay? Matching the same description as the man sitting at Howard Menger's home writing notes, who everyone think happens to be a Venusian named Valiant Thor, because that's what he wanted you to believe. He wanted to believe in the story so much that he was basically praising himself, okay? Even Craig Campabasel, to this very day, could never say to any one of you guys that he've ever met Valiant Thor. He was Frank's friend from 2001 when he met him, okay? And not once was he introduced to so-called Valiant Thor, okay? So, for me, basically, if anyone can prove me wrong, so I would say prove me wrong if you can, but all the information that I got him from Frank's first wife, Bernice, who known him for over 25 years. So, during all these years of this Valiant Thor story and all this other stuff, which he claimed, she was there for all that stuff. So she obviously knows and knew everything, okay? Even after the fact. So just remember, guys, that they divorced in 1974. Okay, so even the thing that she had to endure when Frank went to jail, okay, you guys already know that part because I mentioned it. He went to jail for selling doctorate diplomas without a license, okay? Not only that, he also got caught in a private jet with 200 kilograms of marijuana, and his bail was $25,000. And so was his pilot, also got bail $25,000. So it was $25,000 each, okay? Now, just so you guys can see that those are not the first time that Frank misleads people into believing something different. Okay? It was more like he was just trying to get more attention than he should have, you know? So then when you have this inner circle that he proclaimed saw Valiant Thor, he lied about that too, because that's not true. Valiant Thor is himself. So how can you say that, you know, basically he introduced Valiant Thor to his inner circle members when in fact Valiant Thor is himself? Okay? So I know people are going to be like, well, wait a minute. You know, you just said that his wife said this and that. And yes, that's right. I did. Okay, so I'm sticking to it. And I'm going by that first-hand knowledge information that I received. And as you guys can see that I'm not steering you wrong. If you believe that is the case, then I can say you guys can clearly move on into whatever channel you want to believe in. You can believe in the Valiant Thor story if you want to continue believing in it. I'm just giving you first-hand information that the story is a hoax. Okay? So that's where I stand, guys. You don't have to believe it, but that's where I stand, because I know people are going to make certain claims of their own and say that I'm making all this up when in fact I am not. I don't gain anything from this, so why would I need to lie about it, right? Like I said, guys, I'm 43 years old, you know. I mean, I know I wasn't in the 50s because I wasn't born in the 50s or before the 50s. I was a 70s baby, okay? I was born in 1974. So for me, you guys can find every single thing. Go to Ancestry.com, okay? You can sign up to Ancestry.com, and you guys can find out certain things there. There's also different avenues, guys, where you guys can go. You can go to newspapers.com if you want to find out more about Howard Menger's home and the people, the place, everything that was there at the time. You can also see news clippings with Frank Ernest Stranges, plenty of them. You will see where he claimed that he lived 3 lives. He also proclaimed to be part of the FBI. I'm going to show you guys also that because I have it, okay? And this is from the FBI website. I'm going to show you guys right now, okay? It's because someone made a report to the FBI because Frank Ernest Stranges kept saying that he was associated with the FBI. And of course, that was not true, okay? That was not true at all. So what do people do when they want to investigate certain things, okay? They look it up. They look it up, and then they receive what they're looking for. So you guys go to the FBI website, okay? And go under the vault. It's a vault, okay? It's called The Vault. And you guys will see. So I'm going to look for it right now as I'm going up through the pages. Go to National Investigation Committee Aerial, okay? And that's where you will see it. Where people, these people decided to write to the FBI concerning Frank Ernest Stranges, proclaiming that he is associated with the FBI. Now, of course, that is not an actual true claim that he made. He was lying. Okay, so I think it was Nightcap, if I'm not mistaken, that made the report to the FBI. I'm trying to find it for you guys as fast as I can, okay, so I can show you guys. I'm not making none of this up. You can find it yourself at the FBI website. Like I said, go to the vault, and you will see it there. And look on the paranormal stuff, and that's where you'll see it. Okay. Basically, what they're saying, right? I'm trying to find it right now. It's like I think it's like three reports. Okay? And basically what they're just asking the FBI, oh, here's one of them right here. Okay, here's to Mr. Deloach from D.C. Morrell, okay? Now, they're saying the subject, Richard Hall, Secretary, National Investigations Committee on Aerial Phenomenon. This is Nightcap, okay? And they're asking about Frank Ernest Stranges because he implied he associated himself. Let me read what it says. It says, captioned individual wrote April 27th in closing information concerning Dr. Frank Ernest Stranges, who has implied he was associated with the FBI. Hall stated that in addition to the information he was providing, they would be glad to make other material in their files available to the FBI. A review of the enclosed material indicates that the allegations against Dr. Stranges pertains to a period in August and October, okay? And this is in 1960, guys. Isn't it interesting, isn't it, guys? Remember how I told you guys I was told that he made the book in 1960, right? Now you guys are paying attention? In October 1960, the Seattle office conducted an investigation concerning Dr. Stranges after information was received that he was implying that he was at the time or previously connected with the FBI. During the investigations, no one was located who had actually heard Dr. Stranges make any such allegation, although it was generally conceded that he had left a number of people with such an impression. Dr. Stranges, an evangelist, based on his background, numerous addresses and organizations which he has had, and the fact he claims to have talked to an individual from the planet of Venus, appears he may also he may be also something of a confidence man. In other words, guys, you'll see it's more like I said, it's like three reports, and it's showing how they're trying to validate through the FBI, ask the FBI if Frank Ernest Stranges is connected with them in any form, because Frank Ernest Stranges was claiming that he had connections with the FBI, and of course that was not the case at all. So right here's another letter, and it was wrote to Mr. J. Edgar Hoover, director, of course, Federal Bureau of Investigations, Department of Justice. Dear Mr. Hoover, it has come to our attention through various references and personal correspondence that the FBI has, to some extent, investigated one Dr. Frank Ernest Stranges, and closes a report prepared by this committee on Dr. Stranges, which may be of interest. The letters cited in our report included two in which the writers state Dr. Stranges implied he was associated with the FBI, underlined in red, are available for inspection here. We also have a thick file of letters from Dr. Stranges or about him which are not cited in the enclosed report. We would be glad to make this material available to the FBI and to furnish copies of any pertinent documents. And then it says, sincerely yours, Richard Hall. Now you guys can see again, these are continuous reports, okay, that they made simply because Frank Ernest Stranges was making these outlandish claims. So people wanted to validate whether he was associated with the FBI. Now, it's no big secret if he was, right? Because they would have said, oh yeah, he's a staff member of the FBI. But of course, that was not the case. Okay? So you can't, impersonate being an official of the United States. And many of you know that. Okay? You cannot impersonate a police officer. You can get jailed for that. You can get jailed for being a federal officer, claiming that you are a federal officer. Okay? So basically, just imagine how much trouble Mr. Frank Ernest Stranges kept getting himself into, okay, considering that he was making these claims. So I just wanted you guys to see, how a lot of these things, man, is based on lies that Frank Ernest Stranges have done from the beginning, okay? Now, I'm not steering you guys wrong. If you guys believe that I am, hey, all I can say is you guys go through the same avenues that I went, and you guys can see for yourselves that this is actually the case, okay? Now, I'm definitely not done with this because, of course, I told you guys I'm going to give you a full extent of the story. And this is what I'm doing now, okay? So you guys can clearly see And I didn't give you guys this report before my other letters. Excuse me, my other videos. As you guys saw, that this report was not shown to you guys, but I show it to you guys now. Just so you guys can see that Frank Ernest Stranges, all right? That's Dr. Frank Ernest Stranges was not who he claimed to be. All right? So I just want people to gain that understanding. And as you guys can see, it right here is marked, the date is April 27th, 1962. Just so you can see. Okay? So it's not just that it was on 1960. It was 1960, 1962. It was continuous, okay? That he would keep going to these lectures and claiming to associate himself with the FBI when he was not. And he also said he was part of the Secret Service. Once again, he was not part of any Secret Service. And he said that he was, but he was not. Okay? So you guys can search all this yourselves, like I said. You guys can see how there's a lot of inconsistencies that continue. Not just on this story, but there's other stories as well, people, that you're going to always have these people, okay, that make these stories up. I guess you can say for attention or whatever it may be, okay? It's not just attention. It could also be just to make a living off of this UFO alien phenomenon. And of course, let me also mention to you guys, it's no longer called unidentified flying object. It's now called unexplained aerial phenomenon. Okay, that is the new name for it now. Because I remember that Secretary at the time, Hillary Clinton, she was at an interview and she mentions it. And she said it's no longer called unidentified flying objects. It's now called unexplained aerial phenomenon. So you guys can figure that out from that point on. So let me, again, you guys can go to the FBI website, okay, and go to the vault and search under where it says phenomenon, okay, and you guys can see a lot of things. Now, of course, people, when people hear FBI, they start doubting and saying, oh, well, why would you believe an FBI website and all this stuff? Because that's how people start thinking in their mind. Automatically they start doubting every single piece, when it comes to that. Oh, well, the government has never been up front with us, and why should we believe them now? But you see, the whole thing is, it's not that it's them. It was because it was a report by NICAP who gave it to them because Frank Ernest Stranges made the claim of being an FBI or associated with the FBI. Okay? So, again, this is Frank Ernest Stranges right here. Okay? And people can say to this day, well, no, that's Valiant Thor. Go ahead. You can still say that's Valiant Thor if you like. All I can say is, the truth never lies, guys. When you have the truth right in front of you, you have to believe it, okay? Now, that's your choice. Now, you can see in this photograph, he was talking. I think you can see he was talking in this photograph simply because these people over here are looking directly at him. So is this guy here in the middle, who he claimed was Don Thor, okay? And this guy was looking towards this direction, and this lady towards this direction. That tells you that Frank Ernest Stranges at the time was the one talking, okay? Because out of his curiosity for Howard Menger, who's sitting across, okay, he's sitting across from him, like I showed you guys. He was the one who was asking questions to Howard Menger. Now, as you guys can see, Frank Ernest Stranges is holding a newspaper, which I told you guys before. It's November of 1956. But it seems to be altered in a way where there's a lot of things happening, guys. Trust me on that when I tell you, okay? And that's why I was mentioning to that effect on the other videos when I told you that his friend, Auggie Roberts, helped him along with this development of the story. And that's why, everybody started believing that this so-called extraterrestrial human-looking man named Valiant Thor from the planet of Venus is real. Okay, then we went. Okay, as you guys can see, just by the way it is, you saw the photograph I just showed you, right? So you can see all the same people, like the people that were staring at Frank Ernest Stranges when he was talking, which would be that lady right there, this man right here. You see, they're all the same. It's the same people, as you guys can see. Like I told you, this was the first people that got there out of 150 people. There's a newspaper clipping, on this actual event right here, guys. Okay? And there was actually 150 people at the time. So, as you guys just saw the photograph that I was showing you. Now, from this photograph here, you guys can see that this is the man talking right here, okay? This guy right here. Now, I was saying maybe he can be George Van Tassel, right? Or maybe he can be, I would say maybe George Van Tassel. But who knows? There's no really telling of who that guy is, because that was not my concern about who he was. My major concern was whether this was Frank Ernest Stranges, so that was the major thing that I wanted to know. It wasn't more like anyone else of that photograph. I already knew this was Howard Menger right here. His wife Rose right here. So that was the most important thing anyways. So anyways, guys, as you guys can see, this is the guy talking, and all these people are now looking at him right here. You would think if these people were the important ones, right, they'd be the ones dominating the entire conversation from day one, right? But as you guys can see, they were not. And that's why I told you guys that if you look into Howard Menger's story like I did, you can see that Howard Menger, or rather his Venusians, were blonde-headed people. They were not dark-headed people, okay? He mentioned 2 males with long blonde hair, and he mentioned a female with long blonde hair. He not once said that they had anything to do with black dark hair. Now, he did say that he cut their hair, but their hair was blonde still, remember? Blonde hair. But anyways, as you guys can see, this is plain and simple. I can't get any clearer than that. Like I kept telling you guys that all you had to do was examine Frank Ernest Strange's hair, and I was trying to pinpoint, that's why I made those descriptions to you guys, so you guys can actually see detailed that he is the one and the same guy he claims is some sort of Venusian from the planet of Venus. And then there was someone who tried to send me a side-by-side photograph of the man who's sitting there with another photograph of Frank Ernest Stranges. But you see, what the guy did wrong was he gave me a wrong photograph, a side-by-side photograph, and I kept showing him like, dude, that's not Frank Ernest Stranges, the guy that, this is Frank Ernest Stranges right here, okay? Now, they also used, like I told you, Auggie Roberts also used the man's head, Jessie J Womble, okay? A man who went to the military. He was a young man, actually. He was like 24, if I'm not mistaken, 24, 25. And basically, they used parts of his face, which was almost similar to Frank's face, and they used him in the photograph. So some people, when you were pointing at him, they'd be like, well, that's not Frank. And obviously, you can clearly see that he is not Frank because he doesn't look like Frank. But again, when you match the description of the guy that I just showed you guys, of him sitting with his classmates, okay, in Minnesota, the Bible Seminary, you can clearly see that that's him. Well, guys, anyways, I guess this is where I'll stop. I know there's more, and I'm going to give you the full extent. I'm not done here, guys, and I did say I'm going to make it in one full video. Unfortunately, my camera doesn't quite go that far. It only goes like in the 40s, so I'm going to have to cut it here and continue. That would be basically the Valiant Thor Revisited Part 2. And from there on, that's it, because obviously you guys will know that I've overexhausted myself with this story. I've got all the facts that I needed, and whether people want to believe me or not, that's fine. You know, I know the truth. I know that everything that I've gotten is 100% true. And basically, like I said, it doesn't matter if no one wants to believe what I said, you know, because my investigation is based on my own research of my own accord. No one sent me to do this, and I wanted to do it. And, you know, I'm thankful that I got to meet the first wife, Bernice, you know, through the phone, because I got to know a lot of details, and that's why I was trying to give you guys a lot of details about the story that he made up. And there's more, okay, guys? So what I'm going to do is we're going to close here, and we're going to continue on into the next one.